Hey, what's up guys, Totallydubbed here, and today I'm doing a video review for the Perixx PX-5200. First of all, I'd like to thank Perixx for actually sending me this out for review. After previously reviewing the PX-5000, which a link in the description below to my review will be, I was very much intrigued to see how the PX-5200 would compare. Furthermore, in terms of pricing and availability, it can be found on Amazon.co.uk for £80, both in a UK layout and a US layout. The one I have in front of me is the UK layout. And it can be also found on Amazon.com for $100. So let's get into it. So first of all, what you get in the box? Well, you've got the keyboard and you've got a PS2 converter. Now these are very simplistic to me. I would have liked to see more included. For example, on my CMXT and the Perixx PX-5000, there were WASD keys and arrow keys that you could change. This adds a nice unique look. For example, if I add it like this, it adds a nice unique look that kind of changes the feel of the keyboard. On top of that, there was no key puller included, which is always useful for cleaning out the keyboard. It's a very simple thing to have a key puller because you can quite literally take a key out like that rather than trying to struggle to take it out or having to buy any additional equipment. So, a bit of an overview of the keyboard. So as you can see over here, these do have Cherry MX Blue switches. I'm just going to turn off the backlight over here so you guys can see. And then you can see a Cherry MX Blue switch. Now, the Cherry MX Blue switch is very nice, but it's extremely clicky. It sounds very, very loud, and I'll give you a comparison of that with the MX Brown in just a little bit. As you can also see, it is illuminated. However, there's a little bit of a limitation. So right now you can see the WASD keys illuminated. If I press the macro record and tab, it illuminates then the arrow keys. Then I've got it off, then I've got it on. There is no sort of adjustment in terms of backlight, and I would have liked to see this. On the Perixx PX-5000 or on the G710 Plus right behind it there's illumination control, therefore I can reduce the brightness. I find this a little bit too bright for me, especially at night. Right now it's a little bit sunny, so it's okay, but at night I prefer it just to be a little bit dimmer. And if it's not, then it kind of bothers me a little bit. It's a very simple thing to add. It would have just been, say, Alt and up and down, like they had on the Perixx PX-5000. And I don't know why they haven't included this. Continuing on with my bedazzled approach of why things haven't been included are the media keys. So media keys were on the PX-5000, play, pause, stop, previous and next. Simple keys to use. And they were used on the F9 to F12 keys. Here there's nothing included apart from mute, and volume up and down. It's a little bit of a shame because I would like to see more included. I use media quite a lot, I listen to music a lot, and therefore I like to skip music whilst I'm chilling out or writing something. And unfortunately there is no sort of option to do that, and I find it a little bit of a shame that Perixx didn't include it. But as you did see, there is these buttons over here that you can press, and that is somewhat of a compromise, but anyway, it's something that they've included. You're also able to see over here a G key. Now the G key disables the Windows key and turns it into gamer mode. Very simple key to use, could have probably been replaced with something else. You're also able to see that it illuminates when pressed, and this is the same thing for the scroll lock key, the num lock key, and the caps lock key. Good implementation there, I quite like the design. Now, in terms of the overall design as well and the build quality, this thing is built like a rock. It is made out of plastic, however, it is very, very thick and it doesn't flex at all. No matter how much I tried, I couldn't flex it. So it's very well built, and I was very much happy with the build quality. You can see underneath over here that there's nice cable management. The cable management is well routed and I quite like it. On top of that, the cable is braided and is removable, which is always a plus. Also, these little bits that turn up over here also have a little bit of a rubber mat underneath and therefore prevents it from sliding. But as previously mentioned, I would have liked to see those extra rubber mats included so you could change it for wear and tear purposes. Then I should also mention that there is no sort of USB key or audio input key. The PX-5000 had this, and my Logitech G710 at the back also has it. And it's just a little bit of a shame because some people like to plug in their USB straight into the keyboard, and unfortunately you cannot do this with the PX-5200. So again, a bit of a limitation there. Finally, to round that off, there is no wrist rest included. The PX-5000 had this inbuilt wrist rest, although it was a little bit small. not as big as my Logitech G710 Plus right there, but it still was included, and it's a shame that there was nothing included over here. I know my CMXT didn't include it either, but that's a little bit of a compromise that you should note. And again, with the PX-5200, it's not included. Now, enough about the design, about the build quality. What about the actual feeling of the keyboard? Well, the keyboard feels really nice to type on. Due to the MX Blues, it has a nice sort of tactile feel to it and feels very nice. So I'm just going to go quiet now, go a little bit closer to the camera, to the keyboard, sorry, and just start typing. So hopefully you guys can hear how it actually sounds. So as you can see, very loud and very responsive, and a very light to touch. Now you might be wondering, what about the keys themselves? Now the keys themselves are reasonably light, pretty well, obviously they're plastic, but they're not as light as a G710 Plus keys, for example, but not as heavy as the CMXT ones. Now what this means is that you've got a nice typing feeling. It doesn't feel too heavy or nor too light, just feels right on touch. So I was quite impressed with that. Furthermore, I should actually mention that this one, I have put an O-ring on it, and an O-ring essentially dampens the sound. Now, O-ring would be obviously something extra to buy. It's not something that comes with the keyboard, but it's just something I wanted to show in terms of dampening the sound of an MX Blue. So listen out to the M7 key with no O-ring, and the M8 key with an O-ring. It's a little bit of a dampened sound, and I quite like that. I personally would use this with all O-rings, but obviously that's very subjective and it really depends on you. But it's just another thing to mention, that there's no O-rings included in the package. It might have been nice to have that included, as it doesn't really cost that much to make. You can buy these separately, by the way, and I'll try and find a link and put it in the description below. Now overall, I think this keyboard is nice. However, there's a few limitations for it, and for example, the lack of those keys being included for the media control keys do bring it down a little bit. On top of that, the macro record key buttons work, but there's no software included, and therefore you can only do key presses. Of course, you can try and get software to try and replicate mouse movements or whatever, but there's no software in there to add, say, open up my folder or open up this this file or this document. I can't do that, and it's a shame because it would have really boosted up the profile of the keyboard. Then add to that there's no wrist rest, there's no audio input, audio output, sorry, and USB input. There's also no backlight illumination keys, nor is there any real accessories included. Makes me a little bit hard to recommend this keyboard. It's a good keyboard, don't get me wrong. It feels really nice to type on. For £80, I would have expected just a little bit more. This feels too basic to me. Just nothing adding extra. It just feels very basic and a little bit of a shame. To add to that, one thing I didn't mention in the typing is that the enter button and the backspace button and the space button feel a little bit mushy in comparison to the rest of the keys. This is probably due to spacing underneath, but it's just something that I felt that could have been a little bit improved. That said, I did notice this on my CMXT, which is a highly recommended keyboard across the net, so do bear that in mind. Anyway guys, these will just be my thoughts and opinions and my review of the PX-5200. If you've enjoyed it, make sure you give it a like, comment, subscribe, favourite and share, as it always helps. And definitely do let me know if you're going to get this keyboard, or if you've got it, or what you think, how it compares to the review. Always very much willing to hear and see what you guys think. Anyway guys, overall I think that this keyboard is decent. Do as you will in terms of the extra functionalities that could have been included, but overall I think it could have been better if it was about a £60 keyboard. I think it would have been a go-to keyboard to recommend. If you're looking for typing keyboards, then MX Blues is where to start, so definitely do look at MX Blue keyboards, and one of these would be the PX-5200. Alright guys, I've been totally dubbed, take care, bye bye.